Joining me now, great pleasure, Sandra Smith, co-anchor of America Reports on Fox News.
I'm happy to be here. I'm not happy about the subject matter.
Oh, come on. This is the most fun we've ever had.
Because how much have we had to talk about these rising prices? And you go back to, very smart economists that we have referenced ad nauseum at this point that highlighted this was going to be a problem early on, that worked in Democratic administrations. Steve Ratner, Larry Summers. What are they supposed to do, though, Larry? I keep asking this question. How do they keep their far left, progressives happy while also doing what is right to bring down these prices? I mean, what is the actual solution for this White House to make everybody happy? Is there one? Or does he have to, PO them?
Yes.
Okay.
He's got to change policies.
Okay, because the American people are suffering.
I mean,
you did
here's
your
the thing.
homework.
Look the reason I put those numbers in all seriousness, even at this late date, demand is running well ahead of supply. I think that's an important factoid. In other words, I don't have to go to fiscal policy, although we know the $2 trillion stimulus package, created hot demand. I'm just looking inside the market like it's a commodity market, okay? And I'm just saying, even now, with all the gnashing of teeth, we still have inventories of gasoline coming down and demand going up. We still have...
That only happens for so long, and eventually we'll have demand destruction with prices so high.
When's that happen?
But when you have... I think that's a fair question, and I put that to the White House, advisor to the president, Gene Sperling, and I said, can you give us, based on the rollout of this big new plan to bring prices down, where you see prices going 2 months from now, 4 months now, 6 months, by end of year? I'm not in the business of forecasting, is what he said. I don't get how you advise the president without having a plan of where you want to bring prices down to. But I had Ro Khanna on, Democrat from California today, top of my show. He seemed to be a Democrat breaking with the president, saying this White House needs to do more to address inflation. Obviously they see the writing on the wall when it comes to the midterm elections. When I finally had him on and I asked him, how do you want him to go big and go bold? I want him to tap more from the emergency reserves, is what he said. That's the answer.
Yeah.
He's still pinning blame in his piece in the New York Times. He's still saying it's the devastating pandemic. It's Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine. It's too much money chasing too few goods. Bingo.
Yeah.
That part.
But
come on.
Step back for a second. I heard you had a nice discussion with Gene Sperling. I'm sorry I missed it.
I welcome him to come back anytime.
All right.
Honestly.
But I think their solution is to go woke and to go renewables. I don't think their solution is or will ever be, as long as they have power, which may be coming to an end in 6 months.
Then go home, because...
But I don't think they ever will go back to more leases and more permits for oil and gas. I just don't think they will.
You don't think they can get anybody reasonable in there to say...
From day one, even going back to the Ukraine emergency, remember we had this working group of the allies, the NATO allies in the U.S. and the Europeans, and then we thought for a moment there that they were going to open the spigots, but they didn't. And if you looked at the fine print of that working group, it was all about substituting Russian oil for renewables, for solar. Janet Yellen today. Yeah. What are the solutions? Solar and wind. Yeah. I'm sorry, those are not going to be the solutions. Not now.
That's great.
And not ever, 100%.
Well, you could be somebody like a Bjorn Lomborg, who writes in the Wall Street Journal. He's a guy who believes that can be the case. We're just not ready for it today. So you can't inflict this amount of pain on the American people without a replacement. And there's not a replacement today. My brain room research, you said this sounds low. The average American household is shelling out an extra $317 a month because of the current inflation rate. I mean, Democrats cannot continue to hold power. Nobody will get in that party will be reelected when people are experiencing that type of inflation. Gas prices up 105% since he took office. I don't know if you've heard me on my show. Stop referencing when he took office. Look at when Biden was elected.
That's important.
That's when the run-up happened.
I wrote that into my riff. That's a very important point.
I mean,
You're right.
this happened long ago.
Because the market knew it was coming.
And the market's pricing what they believe is going to happen in the future. And when you had a candidate, Joe Biden, standing on a debate stage promising the end of fossil fuels, he's elected. Guess what? Prices started going up from the day he was elected.
Try this. If, on the other hand, I'm completely wrong, and Joe Biden
never.
changes stripes, it's possible. If he changes stripes and suddenly opens all the spigots for oil and gas and pipelines and LNG exports, okay? I would say to you, the futures curve will crash. You will see $25 to $35 drop in oil prices, which will soon trickle down into gasoline prices.
Yeah, and then
in other words, the election effect can be reversed if the policies are reversed. Now, the chances of that are low, but I'm just saying, even at this late date, it could happen.
And then you'll hear the left complain that gas prices aren't coming down fast enough. That'll be the next complaint. I think it's really important that Democrats are refusing to acknowledge the reality that is. They're not even looking at the polling. Have you ever seen a time in history where they don't look at the polling and change course? I'm sorry, I was probably getting ahead of you here. But I think this Wall Street Journal polling is fascinating. People are pessimistic about what's happening with the U.S. economy.
Wait, let's do it. Here we go.
I mean,
83% say poor, not so good. 17% say excellent, good. So there's a lot of pessimism. There's other polls out today showing 35% approval rating on inflation, for example.
And 35% not at all satisfied with the state of their finances today. That's a huge number.
So I ask you, why are they not paying attention?
Not only are they not acknowledging it, when you've got 35% of the population acknowledging they're not satisfied with the state of their finances today, and then you have a White House touting the economy, painting a rosy picture of it, I don't know. I don't know how you fix a problem without acknowledging it. I don't know.
If you don't own it, you can't fix it. I think that's a truth. That's a truth in life, but it's also a truth in economic policy.
But there's a huge mood change out there, and people aren't happy with it. I know you're an optimistic guy, and you can find a good side of anything, but it's hard right now.
The price of gasoline has not peaked yet. I could just tell you that looking at these numbers.
So it's going to top $5 as a national average.
Yes, it is.
I mean, you've got major Wall Street banks predicting $6 as a national average.
Look, Jamie Dimon's economic hurricane. I don't know when Jamie says it's going to be $150 a barrel in the world market. I don't know that. I'm just saying I tried to look under the hood today with these EIA numbers. And when you see gasoline stocks coming down but demand going up, you know you have a problem. And then you know that the Baker Hughes rig count, which should be soaring with these record prices, is not.
Too risky of an environment.
That's it.
And then Goldman Sachs now says that oil's going to $140 a barrel. It's going to feel more like $160 a barrel to most Americans based on the price that they're paying at the pump. $120? I mean, Kellyanne Conway was on with us earlier, I suppose it was last week, and she said, when you're working in the messaging inside of a White House, this would look like an emergency. Bring the president out to the podium at the White House briefing. Tell the American people what you're going to do to bring those prices down. I mean, people are in pain. Think about people living, on set paychecks, fixed income. I mean, your electricity prices are skyrocketing. You can barely feel your savings are going down.
We have to go.
Grocery prices are skyrocketing.
I hit the hard brake an hour or two ago on your show.
I'm sorry. All right.
No, it's okay. If you want to stay longer, you're welcome to stay longer.
I could always chat with you.
I'm just saying, I want to be optimistic, and I may be before this year is over. But right now, supply-demand is out of whack, and this is an undersupplied
Should
market.
Republicans do more to say what they're going to do about it?
Yes, and yes. And I think you'll see more of that coming. Sandra Smith. You can catch Sandra on America Reports weekdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox News.
Thank you, Larry.
Sandra. Appreciate it.